think it's safe to say that
Yeah,
this was not Upamecano's tie whatsoever. This was a poor performance from Upamecano. I have rarely seen him perform like this over 2 games, but he was very, very lucky not to have been red carded in that first half.
You see, it's funny for me because I'd kind of bought into the Upamecano hype this season, especially after the World Cup when he'd been very convincing, more so than usual. I wasn't entirely sold on Upamecano in his sort of early days with Bayern. Like I said, I kind of came around to him midway through this season. And then these 2 legs against Manchester City have reminded me exactly why I was so skeptical about Upamecano. I don't think that he's become a poor defender overnight, but I do think that there are certain roles in the defense that he plays better than others. And I think perhaps Thomas Tuchel has misjudged it and maybe given him a little bit too much responsibility in terms of trying to structure the defense. I don't think he's that kind of player who deals well with those kind of expectations. I think you're probably better off going with somebody like Matthijs de Ligt, who's had, probably the most elite tactical education you can get at Ajax and then going to Juventus. I think that's probably a better way forward. I mean, some of this is down to just bad luck, but also some of it is down to decision-making. And that's something that Thomas Tuchel is either going to have to coach out of Upamecano, or he's going to have to consider sort of what he wants to do long-term with, this Bayern Munich defense. And, it's not just something that extends to Upamecano. We already know that Bayern are going to have to do something in attack because they can't keep relying on choupo-moting performing these miracles and scoring goals that we never expected him to score. And I think there's other aspects, other areas of the team as well, where big decisions are going to have to be made. Jan Sommer, as much as he was a good stopgap solution for Neuer when Neuer was injured, does Neuer walk straight back into that team and sort of give that defense the reassuring presence behind them that they need? Very possibly, because they don't look half as well organized when he's not there.
I think for me, just to add to what JJ said, Ian, and guys, I think Upamecano for me reminds me of sometimes when you meet some of these academies, when they're developing these young players, some of these academies go more so for the physical attributes of a player than the footballing intelligence and footballing capabilities. And that's what I saw in that. For me, he just wasn't there for both ties. You're playing against the highest level of players, and it's not his fault. It's not his problem that they haven't really developed his footballing brain in the sense of knowing, understanding the players you're coming up against and just being a bit more responsible. But it's just more so the physical attributes of him is what I see more than anything else. When I look at this tie overall, Ian could probably add more than we can ever add. I did not see Bayern Munich looking like a team that wanted to come and win this game, needing to win this game. And for me, I just didn't see the real aggression that's needed when you're playing at home. I felt for me as well, Thomas Tuchel got it wrong in his starting lineup. I think for me that Muller should have started. Alphonso Davies is their best attacking player. I think Alphonso Davies brings so much in the attacking third as well as being very good defensively. I didn't understand how he didn't start. And for me, again, Bayern Munich, I believe now, got it wrong in sacking Thomas Tuchel. I mean, not Thomas Tuchel, Nagelsmann. And I think they should have just stuck with Nagelsmann to the end of the season, because it just doesn't. I don't see a big change. You could put your finger away. I don't see a big change from what I've seen in this Bayern Munich. But if anything, I've seen regression instead of progression. And my last thing is I give credit to Pep, because if you watch the start of that game, what did Pep Guardiola do to Bayern Munich? He kept the play out of Cancelo's side. Let's let them go on the other side to oh God, I can't even say it. So I'm just saying Upamecano's side, and keep away from Cancelo, because Pep Guardiola knows how influential Cancelo can be. And I give credit to coaching there. And that is a great manager there who done a tactical change. I don't know how many people saw that, but I saw that, how they wanted to keep the play on the opposite side away from Cancelo so he can't have a real influence in this game. And then the one last thing I'm going to say, again, we talk about how vulnerable Bayern Munich and Man City can be in the counter-attacking situation. Their best chance they had was Sadio Mane, who should have scored. When Mane didn't score that chance, when Bayern Munich didn't get one goal at least in the first half, that game was done, because there was no chance they can get 3 goals in the second half. And I guess they're missing a certain striker called Lewandowski that Ian really loves so much as well. They are missing a real true striker.
Yeah, Nige, before I go in on my points, we were talking about 6 out of 10. As Ian said in the chat, you were definitely venturing below 3 out of 10 and not getting Upamecano's name right. It's not Sadio Mane, it was Leroy Sané. So
I said
clearly,
Sané. Did I say Sané?
You said Sadio Mane. So clearly you were watching a different version of the Champions League.
Okay, well, I can see
agree.
now why Mane punched him in the face for missing that chance. How about that?
We can both agree on that. So a slight tweak for me that I thought Bayern started the game brightly. I actually was scratching my head outside of the called offside, the potential red card that was reversed to an offside. I thought the way Bayern started, the aggression they showed, everyone was flying except for one player. It was Jamal Musiala. I thought this was one of his worst games in a Bayern jersey I've seen for a long time.
Couldn't get
the ball
going.
would get to his the ball would get to his feet. One too many touches, couldn't get his balance right. That is not the Musiala that we're used to seeing. It looked like the occasion was too big for the young player. I do agree with you that Leroy Sané, it was just written in the stars. I actually like that he went with Sané and João Cancelo in this second leg because that gives you ultimate attack. Alphonso Davies, I think he was sitting on a yellow card from the first leg. Maybe that's why he didn't pick him in the starting 11. But if you don't take care of business against this Man City side that has Erling Haaland, you will get punished. City, they simplified their game. They absorbed pressure and they just launched it forward. On the goal that they scored, the goal that Haaland scored, it was 1v2, Erling Haaland versus 2 center backs from Bayern Munich. He wins the ball over De Ligt, knocks it to Kevin De Bruyne, and then De Bruyne springs him in. And when you're 1v1 against Upamecano, you might as well put my next door neighbor, Jose Cruz. Yes, I call him by full name because if you see him, you'll know why. Jose could have defended better than Upamecano did across this tie, and sure as hell in this matchup. I feel for the guy, but he's doing it to himself. And the warning signs have been there. The warning signs were there at Leipzig. The warning signs are there, JJ. I'm glad you said it. Early in his Bayern career, the inconsistency and mental lapses from Upamecano is very, very damaging and could be the nail in the coffin for his Bayern career.
Well, I spied a comment there at the bottom saying that Nagelsmann will be smiling away with his severance pay. I've actually got a question for Ian, because we've seen a lot of weird behavior from Thomas Tuchel since he's taken over as Bayern coach. Obviously started off on a high, beating Dortmund. It was very apologetic when they went out of the DFB Pokal. Tempers really, running high towards the end of that game. Do you think there's visibly sort of a recognition on Tuchel's part that he has taken on a bigger task than he thought? Because it certainly seems in recent weeks with everything that's gone on that suddenly what seemed like it could be a walk in the park end to the season for Tuchel, given how he walked into Chelsea and won the Champions League with them. It's fast turning into a bit of a nightmare with Bayern. I mean, I'm not saying it's crisis period just yet, but there's definitely more work there to be done than I think he first thought.
Yeah, I think he's recognizing very quickly there's a lot more work to be done with this Bayern Munich side to certainly get them back competitive at the highest level, the elite level. Domestically, the title is pretty much being handed to them with the teams around them losing games. So I think they'll still win the title with relative ease, even though you're 100% right. It's not been as easy domestically as he would have imagined. I think he recognizes, JJ, that the challenge that has faced him, and one of the reasons why they maybe made this change with Nagelsmann, and maybe they would have liked to have made it earlier, is that Tuchel was available, and Tuchel basically was saying, you've got to take me now, otherwise there may be an opportunity for me elsewhere. And that's maybe why Bayern moved very quickly to get him in the hot seat. The project now has to be a long-term project for Bayern Munich. When you lose Lewandowski, I think we can all recognize you lose those goals in the Champions League, double figures every year. You lose them domestically, you're losing a 20, 30, 40 goal a season player. You can't just replace that easily. That takes planning. That takes scouting. That takes also the investment from the football club to replace a goal scorer like that. Otherwise, you have to get lucky within the Bundesliga, which they might do with Kolo Muani or someone like that, where they normally go to for their strikers to rebuild what's going on. Bayern are not far away from being competitive. Defensively is where my concern is at. I don't think it's going to be hard for them to convince a top striker, to come to the football club to score goals. Defensively, seeing that type of performance from quality players is really concerning to me. Then you've got the discipline of Neuer. Then you've got the discipline of, obviously, Sané Mane. Like, you've got discipline in that locker room. Things are going wrong at Bayern Munich right now, and they have been going wrong for a while. And it's almost as if Thomas Tuchel's got in there, and he's wondering now, oh my God, like what have I just inherited? This is a mess. These players have got to get back to what they do best. They've got to get confident once again. They've got to get competitive once again. And Bayern Munich will never spend over 100 million on a player as far as I'm concerned. So it's going to be a long way for them to compete at this level again. Nigel, what do you think?
No, I agree with you. I think Tuchel's just got into a mess, but the reality of it is he's probably looking at Chelsea now thinking he's left probably a bigger mess behind. So he's in a lose-lose situation anyway.
Yeah.
I don't think Bayern Munich are that far off it. I think, yes, you're right. Defensively, yes. And then obviously they need that goal scorer. That goal scorer is what's missing. We all know here, one thing we can definitely agree on is goals change games. If Bayern Munich had gone in 1-0 up at half time, the atmosphere in the stadium would have changed. The belief would have changed. And they probably could have come back to really level up that game. But if you don't take your chances and opportunities, and they had tremendous amount of opportunities, you're not going to win games, especially at that highest level, and you will be punished. And that's what Manchester City did.